The graboids. What are they? Could they be aliens from another world? Are they the result of scientific experiments? Are they radioactive monsters, or have they always been here living in the bowels of the earth? Well, that is a question that the 1990 B-monster movie Tremors asks. Starring Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, and Michael Gross, Tremors tells the story of giant, fierce, and deadly worm monsters who attack a small, isolated desert community called Perfection, where local repairmen Val and Earl try to save the day from these ferocious movie monsters. With its impressive special effects, lavish landscapes, and cinematography, and leave your brain at the door enjoyability, Tremors has become a fan favourite, and is a franchise that up until a few years ago was still going on. And who knows, in the future it might still carry on. But above all, it's probably left movie audiences a little apprehensive of the desert, like Jaws did for the sea, and made people question what may be lurking deep underground within the desert landscapes. So of course today we are going to explore these terrifying worm monsters known as the graboids by looking into 10 things that you may not know about Tremors. The movie that not only impresses us with Kevin Bacon's mullet, but also by introducing a new celebrated movie monster. So let's check it out.
Well, shit. Can't leave him up there.
Number 10, original title. Believe it or not, but Tremors' original title was in fact Land Shark, as that was the name that was conceived when writers Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson wrote the original story and screenplay. However, the name had to be changed because at the time, there was a Saturday Night Live comedy sketch character who was also called Land Shark. So to avoid links to the comedy show, and possibly a lawsuit, the two writers decided to change the name. And I'm glad, because I think Land Shark, and I think about that weird Jaws spoof Blood Beach, which was about creatures eating beachgoers on the sand. So other potential names for the movie included Beneath Perfection and Dead Silence. Personally, if it was up to me, I would have called the movie Bacon vs. the Worms. But sadly, I'm not in the movie naming business. Thankfully, they went with Tremors, which to me has that special kind of intrigue that gets you interested in the movie. And let's face it, it is a much better title than the previous proposed ones. Number 9, the writer's other works. As mentioned, Tremors was written by the talents of writing duo S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock. And Tremors isn't the only movie the two writers have written scripts together for, as before Tremors they had also written the scripts for Short Circuit and Batteries Not Included, and after Tremors, Wilson and Maddock would go on to write the not so flattering Ghost Dad. Hey, I guess everyone has their off days, right? Along with Hearts and Souls, Tremors 2, Wild Wild West, followed by the remainder of the Tremor series. But more on them later. Speaking of the people who worked on the movie, Tremors was produced by Gail Ann Hurd, who is probably best known for being the producer on Terminator 1 and 2, along with Aliens, Raising Cain, Armageddon, Hulk, and The Walking Dead, and many, many more, as she's actually a very accomplished Hollywood producer. Tremors' director was Ron Underwood, and it was his first big major movie. However, after Tremors, he too had success with other projects like City Slickers, Speechless, Heart and Souls, and has had a very successful television directorial career, having directed episodes of Desperate Housewives, Once Upon a Time, Grey's Anatomy, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, writers Wilson and Maddock, along with director Ron Underwood and producer Nancy Roberts, even have their own production company, Stampede Entertainment, which of course produced the movie Tremors. Number 8, inspiration. Could it be that going on a simple hike in the middle of nowhere can cause the creation of a successful franchise? Well, apparently so, as the sluggish seeds of Tremors were sown when S.S. Wilson went hiking in the Mojave Desert. Wilson was a journalist for the Navy, and every once in a while he was allowed to explore the vast beauty no man's land, where on one hike in particular, while climbing over a large boulder, Wilson imagined that there were monster creatures underneath the ground, to which he wouldn't be able to leave the boulder. And that spark right there ignited his idea for Tremors, where he would jot down this terrifying thought and then pursued it from there, and alas, Tremors was born. Well, gee whiz, I wish the last time I went walking in the desert I invented a modern pop cultural phenomenon. All I got was dehydration. Number 7, Kevin Bacon didn't like the film. When Tremors first came out, it seemed that its main star, Kevin Bacon, wasn't really a fan of the movie that he just starred in. Bacon, in all his baconness, thought that the movie just wasn't very good. But you gotta remember, Tremors came out at a time when Bacon's career was really peaking, having starred in movies like Footloose and Flatliners. However, the fans' love of the movie proved Bacon's initial reaction to not be accurate, as it showed Bacon that Tremors is a fun film with a devoted fan base, which eventually has made the actor warm up to the role, so much so that Bacon returned to the role of Val for the 2017 pilot episode of the sadly cancelled Tremors TV series. However, one thing we have to remember though is that Bacon did have a tough time making the original Tremors, as filming the movie about giant worm monsters caused him to suffer nightmares. While having one of his nightmares, he supposedly picked up his pregnant wife and carried her outside into the street. Yeah, that's just as freaky as the movie. Number 6, from family sitcom to graboids. So the movie stars Michael Gross as Bert Gummer, a gun-toting, paranoid eccentric, hell-bent on survival. Although these days Gross is heavily connected to the role and became a fan favourite in the Tremors film series, before Tremors he was most well known for playing Stephen Keaton from the wholesome hit family sitcom Family Ties. In fact, there was hesitation from the production in casting him in the role of Gummer, as it was felt that he wasn't right for the part, probably due to the warm-hearted, family-friendly show that he had starred in for such a long time. But thankfully, Gross did his screen test and impressed everyone, and was cast in the now iconic role. However, the interesting twist is that Gross arrived on the set to film Tremors one day after he filmed scenes for the very last episode of Family Ties. So he literally went from family man to crazed monster hunter. Cool. Number 5, sequels. So considering Tremors was a huge surprise hit, it was natural that sequels would ensue. Yep, more monsters and sadly less Bacon. However, the sequels that followed were all direct-to-video follow-ups, which I can't understand why. I mean, surely sequels to Tremors would have at least filled some cinema seats, right? First up in 1996 there was Tremors 2 Aftershock. It still impressed, and did well among lovers of B-movies. And then in 2001 there was Tremors 3 Back to Perfection. And good grief, just look at the cover. I can't put my finger on it. It looks weird. Like they got a photo of Michael Gross doing an awkward pose and cut him out and stuck it on an animated background. However, despite its awkward poster and CGI graboids, the movie once again got praise and even won a Golden Reel Award. And before you can scratch your head and ask why aren't these movies being released theatrically, Tremors 4 The Legend Begins was released straight to video in 2004. This was an interesting one as it was a prequel to the previous 3 movies, giving it an old cowboy western setting. However, despite its interesting direction, the movie didn't do as well as the previous movies. Then the franchise returned to format with Tremors 5 Bloodlines, which, although got mixed reviews by critics, was a welcomed addition by fans. And then finally in 2018, we got Tremors A Cold Day in Hell, in which the action takes place in the Arctic, which seems fitting as this one sadly got a cold reception. Yeah, see what I did there? But things did improve slightly in 2020, with the 7th entry, Tremors Shrieker Island. And yes, once again, a direct-to-video sequel. And this entry was actually originally called Tremors Island Fury, but for some reason got its name changed in the last minute, where once again Michael Gross returns as Gummer. It's like he's the glue holding the franchise together at this stage. This time the action takes place on a tropical island with a new species of monster called the Shriekers, whom are related to the Graboids, only more advanced. So you gotta give them credit for trying something different this time. The movie's reception was fairly mixed and only has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 38%. However, the movie does have a very ballsy ending. So it may not be the perfect Tremors movie, but all fans should check it out. So what other medias does Tremors have to offer to hardcore fans who just can't get enough Tremors? Number 4, TV series. Tremors doesn't have the best of luck when it comes to primetime viewing, as the recent series that was going to see Kevin Bacon return to the franchise was cancelled by the Sci-Fi Channel. However, this isn't the only time a Tremors TV series didn't really go anywhere. Jump all the way back to 2003, and a Tremors series was already shown, once again on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it even saw the return of Michael Gross as Gummer. However, when it was shown, many people thought the series was just a Farscape replacement series, and so viewing figures were down. And the show only consisted of 13 episodes, which is a shame, as if it was given a chance, it probably could have been a great TV series, but sadly we will now never know. And the popular belief that the show was just there to fill in the gaps for Farscape wasn't true, as the show went into production before Farscape's cancellation. Still, you've got to give credit to Michael Gross. He always seems ever willing to return to anything Tremors. That's pretty awesome. Number 3, Universal interfered with the soundtrack. Although the movie's score is credited to Ernest Troost, most of Troost's musical contributions were in fact removed from the final movie. I'm guessing due to Universal not being satisfied with some of the music that he provided. Once again, that's just a guess, who knows. So Robert Folk was brought on board to provide music for the movie, be that an uncredited contribution. Folk has had a long career in scoring movies, including the Police Academy films, Can't Buy Me Love and The Neverending Story 2, among many others. And Folk stated that Ernest True's contract stipulated that if any of his music was used, then he would be the one to be credited as providing the movie's score. Number 2, movie poster shenanigans. When Universal Pictures were putting the poster together for the movie, they were going to show a Graboid in all its slimy glory. However, production company Stampede Entertainment were against this notion, on the account that it was felt that when the Graboids are seen for the first time, it should be on film, and it should come as a complete surprise and shock the audience. Universal, obviously wanting some kind of monster on the poster to entice audiences, without giving too much of the Graboids away, decided to just do a close-up of a Graboid's mouth where we can see a set of razor-sharp teeth. So you can tell that there's a monster in there, but you can't really see the whole thing. Which in my opinion does kind of work, as when I hired this movie from the local video store when I was a kid, I honestly thought that that's what one of the Graboids looked like. I had no idea that they were actually a lot more bigger. And yeah, the Tremors poster definitely pays homage to the Jaws poster. So before we get to number 1, here is a bonus entry. No more potty mouths in Tremors. So as if Tremors release didn't have enough setbacks with the music needing to be changed and the movie's poster also needing to be changed, Tremors was then hit with another obstacle, that being bad language. When Tremors was set to be released, the MPAA gave the movie an R rating, thanks to all the F-bombs in the movie, which apparently consisted of over 20. Wow. Were they swearing like sailors or what? So in order to get a PG-13 rating, the movie had to go back to the editing room, with some last-minute changes being made in order to drastically reduce the F-words. Most of the F-bombs were either just simply cut from the movie, which would have been an easy solution, or redubbed. So due to these edits, Tremors was given a PG-13 rating that the studio had desired. Tremors was actually meant to be released in November 1989, but because of all the setbacks, it was released in January 1990. So it was very close to being an 80s movie, but ultimately ended up being a 90s one, be that a very early 90s movie. You got to love the thought process of the MPAA. People getting brutally killed by giant worm monsters is fine, but you use the F word and whoa, that is clearly going too far. But regardless, Tremors enjoyed a much more widespread release thanks to its rating. However, Tremors was still no match for the movie Born on the 4th of July, the dramatic Oliver Stone movie starring Tom Cruise, which came out round about the same time as Tremors and absolutely dominated the box office, with Tremors bringing in $16.7 million on a $10 million budget. So although it did bring in some money and wasn't a financial failure, the numbers were still sadly lower than to be expected. But don't worry, the movie went on to become a massive hit on home video, where it would go on to gain its cult status, so it is a happy ending after all. Number 1. Original beginning and ending. Yes, believe it or not, but Tremors had both an alternative beginning and ending, which was subsequently changed. The intro to Tremors as we know it is Kevin Bacon walking around the desert scenery, but the original intro was going to see the Tremors chow down on an unfortunate local of Perfection. The original ending saw the Earl and Val characters finally leave Perfection, before deciding to turn back around. But test audiences wanted to see an outcome of the romance that had been generated throughout the movie between the Val and Rhonda characters. So due to the test audience's displeasure of the ending, a more romantic ending was filmed, where the Val and Rhonda character share a kiss, and everyone lives happily ever after. Aww. Well, that is until the sequel, of course. But yeah, isn't it funny that test audiences often do get in the way of movies and can completely change them creatively? But regardless, Tremors is a B-movie classic. It's just a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it to anyone who just wants some mild, easy-to-digest popcorn entertainment. You won't be disappointed. Well guys, that was my look into Tremors, and I get a kick out of this movie. I like the idea of monsters living deep underground that we don't know about, and that we have to be careful where we step. And I also get a lot of enjoyment out of the sequels too. So if it's a Friday night and there's nothing to do, you should definitely have a Tremors movie night marathon. Anyway, I'm Minty, and I still think that Tremors should have been called Bacon vs. the Worms. See ya!